All right. Thank you for joining us on our live stream. And before I bring my guests out, there's just a couple of things I want to tell you. I forgot to change the title on my live stream. So this one says Beginner Guitar Lessons for Kids. And so if you're here expecting beginner guitar lessons for kids, go to the stream that we did just before starting this one. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how this came about. There's a mastermind group that I've been very fortunate to be a part of that has three other gentlemen, and we've been helping each other for 2 years build our online businesses and all the infrastructure that goes with that. And at our last meeting, it was floated that, hey, maybe we should do a live stream because if we're helping each other, maybe we can help other people. And so that's what we're here to do. I was the person that had the format, so that's why the music teacher is streaming about small business and pandemic preparedness. All right, let's rock out, and I'll bring my guests out. All right. So first up, everybody's going to unmute themselves, and I'm going to do a special shout out. Gordon LaBelle is going to unmute himself there. He's helping me out with some tech and some questions. And so, mastermind guests, we're all going to give Gordon a round of applause for joining us.
Thank you.
Helping out with tech. So first of all, and we don't really have a format here, and we kind of very vaguely talked about it, but I'd like each one of my guests to just give us the 10-second blurb on who they are and what they do. And we're going to start with you, Lee Hodgins.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Doing really good.
Yeah, so my name's Lee Hodgins. I am an HR expert consultant. I've been doing online business for the last 2 years. And my specialty right now online is interviewing techniques for employers. But for this specific session, this purpose, I'm going to be introducing the outline for a pandemic plan for small businesses.
Thank you so much, Lee. And next up, I'm going to introduce Glenn Walker. So, Glenn, can you give us the Cole's Notes version of yourself?
No, I'll talk for a while. No, my name's Glenn Walker. I'm a marketing specialist, independent consultant. Work a lot with online advertising, websites, and internet marketing in general. Like I said, I've been in the mastermind group with you for a while, and definitely been using Paul's help to help my media and my media production skills and bring those up. I'm the website and internet guy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Glenn. I very much appreciate that. David Kincaid, you're actually the person that got the mastermind group together. David, can you give us the 10-second blurb about yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name's Dave Kincaid. I am a grant writer, and I'm the owner of Alberta Business Grants. And if you go to albertabusinessgrants.ca, there's lots of information that you can get there about grants, finding grants, how to win them, how to write them, all kinds of stuff like that.
Thanks so much, David. So our basic format that we thought of for about 3 minutes before launching this was that we were going to have one member that was going to do a presentation. And so today it's Lee. And so Lee's going to do a quick presentation on pandemic preparedness. And then the rest of us are going to pounce on him and ask questions. And if you're in the audience watching, put your questions out there. Gordon's going to field that. And we'd love to hear ideas that you guys have and questions that you have as well. So the floor is yours, Lee.
All right, Paul. So I think the big thing we need to be remembering right now is, and obviously this is on everybody's mind, is what is going to happen to my business with all of this chaos that's surrounding us. Mm-hmm. So, Paul, I want to give you credit for this because you actually reminded me by asking me a very innocent question the other day. I guess it'd be a month ago now?
About a month. Where I called you.
You said, sorry, you said, oh my God, Lee, I've got a bricks and mortar business here. What do I do with all this pandemic, issue coming up? And so it reminded me that I've been through not one, but 2 pandemic situations as a senior HR leader in organizations, basically up to about $100 million in revenue, and with significant employee and asset as part of that business. So my specialty for today is basically giving people an outline If you're a small business or even a medium-sized business, then this is what I can help you with in terms of a basic outline of what you need to do. So I think maybe what I'll do is, rather than just yak, I'll share this screen if I could. Is that all right, Paul?
That's perfect. That'd be great.
Okay, let me see if I can find it here. Here it is. So you should be able to see the screen now. Yes, everyone?
You bet.
Awesome. So there are basically 6 key areas that every single business owner or should be looking at right now in terms of what you need to be concerned about for your business. And obviously, some of these are going to be very, very clear to you as a business owner by now, especially here in Alberta, where we're right in the heat of all the pandemic numbers, and we see them going up every day, and we know that our economy is basically shut down or shutting down and continues to fall off in different areas. So the first one is people continuity. Really, this is about the people in your business. And I want to remind you, this includes you as the business owner. You are part of this people continuity issue. And really, what you want to do, or what you want to be thinking about here, is what are you doing for succession planning? If you have to lay off people, if you maybe you already are, I know many businesses already are. What happens if you, as a business owner, get sick with the COVID virus? What are you going to do in terms of making sure that your business continues to run? And that's why we call it a continuity plan. The other thing is cross training in terms of people continuity. So what are you going to do if someone leaves your business, or you have to lay people off, or someone gets sick, and you've got to be able to bring someone into that situation in order to handle their role? So this is like a plan B sort of plan for your people. The second one is business continuity, and this has to do with your key core business operations. As a small business owner, maybe you are a retailer, or maybe you're trades, or you're, there's some aspect of your business that provides the daily income, and you've maybe already seen this happen where that's dropped off, or it's disappeared, or it's disappearing. So what are you doing to prepare for that? What are you doing to make sure that you're working with that situation? And we've seen many examples of this over the last few weeks, where businesses are starting to have to close down, or they've had to pivot. And Paul, you can speak to this in terms of how you pivoted in your business over the last few weeks to try and maintain the business operations that you got going on. So that's what a continuity plan for business is.
Yeah.
Health and safety.
Awesome.
What if you sorry, Paul, did you want to jump in?
No, you go. You go. You're rocking it here.
I just want to get through this, so I'll hand it back to you after that. Health and safety is really one of the key things in terms of maintaining the safety of you, your people, and your operations, in terms of what protocols do you have in place to A, protect you from the COVID virus threat, and B, to make sure that you know what to do to help in keeping your place clean, keeping people safe. This includes everything from the social distancing that we've been instructed to do by all the health authorities. It includes maintaining, a safe work environment so that you can actually continue business operations if you've got operations still going on. Fourth one is financial continuity. What are you doing with the banks? What are you doing with your lenders? What are you doing with your creditors? What are you doing with the people that owe you money? How are you making sure that you've got continuous cash flow coming? What happens when your cash flow drops off? What are you doing? That's your financial continuity plan. Employee support and action. If you have to lay people off, what are you doing to help support them in this time? Are you doing it temporarily? Are you making sure that they have access to the new emergency EI benefits that are available? What are you doing as an employer? It's probably keeping you up at night. So this is another area of your action plan that you want to have at least fleshed out on paper in some kind of outline. And the final one is, what are you doing to reach out to the community, to your customers, to your vendors, to all your key external stakeholders, the people that you rely on to keep your business either operating or to keep your cash flow coming in or to maintain your credit rating or whatever it is. So those are the key 6 business areas that I would be focusing on right now if I was trying to do a pandemic preparedness plan for my business. Back to you, Paul.
That's amazing. And I'll get you to stop share your screen so then it'll go back to, as people talk, it'll go back to their, yeah, there we go. So that's awesome, Lee. And for me, you walked me through this early. Like I was very fortunate to, have been ahead of the curve, so to speak, on this because I lucked out and I'd done some audio work for you on a interviewing course that you're doing, and I said, no, don't pay me. I would rather have your services. Which, so and as business owners, so I'm a what I usually kind of bring to the mastermind group is I'm the scrappy business owner, the guy that's done this from street smarts. I don't have an MBA. I've done it for a lot of years, and and people with my I'm going to say kind of blood type in business, we tend to think we can handle everything. And then when you sat down with me and it was like, there was nothing like that I knew I didn't need to do, but when I actually did it, it made it so that I could formally, kind of push ahead. And that has been one of the biggest keys to be able to still function. And so if anybody, is looking at it, I say, take Lee at his word that writing this stuff out will really, really help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's have
and kudos, sorry, Paul, kudos to you for doing this. You were, way ahead of the curve in terms of getting out on top of this when it first broke, and we knew that, the coronavirus was here in Alberta, and you did exactly what you needed to do.
I appreciate that, Lee. That means a ton. I'd love to hear what. And then we got applause from David Kincaid. Love the Zoom app. Look at that. So David
Thanks,
gave.
Dave.
David's going to weigh in next. David, how has this affected you, and how does the preparedness plan look from your shoes? And you're still muted. There you go.
Well, first of all, it was kind of interesting to clap because I've never used that feature before, and it just keeps clapping. It's like a real ovation. It's like, I wanted to give him a few claps. I didn't want to give you like 15 seconds of applause, but it was good.
Oh no, I can take them all. I can take them all.
Just a comment, Lee, your last point around communication. It was really interesting when, the COVID thing first came out, because everyone was saying, how many people have my email address? Like, we were getting emails like COVID response. When it started, it was like, I bought a shave razor one time 15 years ago when I was getting an update from them. Yeah. But that's really slowed down for me. I'm hearing much less from businesses on COVID sort of preparedness or communication. It was kind of like that one sort of, we got to get this out. And I'm seeing it with grant agencies. They put out their statement and they're just, I'm talking about businesses communicating, and that kind of shut down. I'm just wondering if you could comment on that, if that's a good idea, or just your thoughts.
Well, it's like everything that happens in life, really. There's a cycle to it, right? So you're absolutely right. We're past the first phase of that kind of realization that something's happening and that, oh my gosh, we need to do something about this. So, a lot of businesses were, like you said, putting out those communications saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we're handling it. We want to keep you as a customer, basically, right? So that's what they were doing. They were communicating with their customers in a way that they thought would keep them engaged with them through this process. What's happening now is we're on to the phase where businesses are actually, where things have gotten real, where businesses are hunkering down. Owners are laying people off. Owners are looking at their bank statements. Owners are looking at their bills. Owners are saying, okay, what am I going to do to survive? Just to survive right now. So for all intents and purposes, the pandemic preparedness portion should have already been done. It should have been done when Paul did it a month ago, or started to do it a month ago. And I put out from my list, I put out 3 videos basically saying that starting a month ago. And what happens now, to Paul's point, is that business owners are basically hunkering down, and they're saying, well, it's every man for himself. I'm gonna do what I got to do to survive. Or maybe businesses are in the middle of closing down completely right now. That's also happening. So businesses are either surviving now or they're not. And that's unfortunate, but that's part of the cycle. We're into that phase right now.
So, Glenn, I don't think you've weighed in on this yet. Can you hammer Lee with some things he maybe can't answer? I'd love to see that
Yeah.
because that rarely happens.
No, I wouldn't do that to Lee. No, my big question is, I have clients and other individuals who just as initial gut reaction have just laid off significant numbers of employees, as the first reaction was a layoff. So obviously that's a tool that people use. But the question I would have is like, what other tool, like one, if that tool's been used or a person's thinking about using a tool, like sending someone back to market, it happens. What should someone doing if they have, say, a six week runway right now? What can people do now to prepare for a 6 week runway? Because this could in Alberta be loosening in a month or 6 weeks. What can someone do now that to prepare for 6 weeks out? You know, especially in the way of layouts, government programs, things like that. Like what can they build now to help prepare for the 6 weeks from now?
Well, it's a good question, Glenn. I think the big thing that comes to mind right now is that there are a number of programs that are now available through the federal government. If you've been watching the news, they have it on the news every night, talking about basically 2 areas. One is the Emergency Employment Response Benefit, and that is, ERB or something like that. I forget what the acronym is, but basically that is the government's response to people who've been laid off. So if I were an employer, what I would do if I was laying people off right now is I would be reaching out to the local federal employment, Alberta, Canada Employment Office, because there are employment offices around the province that are regionally based. You can go to your local office or you can contact them online and say, look, I've got, X amount of employees that I've got to lay off. How can I get them connected with this emergency response benefit? And that will help. A lot of employees may not be comfortable either going online or, doing this on their own, or they may not. So they may just not know about it. So if you are an employer, that's one way to help. It's it's basically, in my mind, it's the least I can do as an employer to help my employees, which is to get them in touch with that benefit program. It's coming online here right away. In fact, today was the day, I believe, that they were announcing that it was going to be available online for people to start applying. So now is the time to start doing that. The
I'm
other thing is the federal government has a number of programs available for small business, and again, those were also going to be available this month. So I would encourage again people to go to the CRA website, the Canada tax website, and look there because it'll be available for them there.
and I'm guessing that David Kincaid might be able to clarify some of that because he's very
Yeah,
the government programs. I believe the CERB is the
CERB.
for people that have been laid off, whether they're contractors or anything like that. Um, and but David, maybe you can speak to some of the programs. Just I know there's so many, but what you think people really ought to be looking at.
I just a lot of confusion has come out around they've announced programs and like they're pretty difficult to do, right? Like to get all the details right and how they implement them, like delivery agents, like where do you go? So whether it's a loan, at first people thought it was the BDC, but then it's like they're being delivered also through the big 6 banks. So I would just encourage people to follow the Alberta and the federal government sites. It's like right on their main page. Just click and it says support for businesses. They've done a really good job of making it simple.
Yeah,
Just watch that on an ongoing basis. Or Lee?
you bet. That's exactly right. and it is the CERB.
So one of the things that I'm going to just say from a boots on the ground perspective, yeah, there is a lot of government help to the tune that we have never ever seen before in my lifetime for sure. And one of the things that because Lee got me ahead of things, so now, you know, some people are really, just kind of sorting out their business as of last week, and still some this week putting
Yeah.
in, cleaning measures and all of that kind of stuff. And I've left that behind a few weeks ago. And I mean, I'm still doing the protocol, but I'm not sorting out what the protocol is.
You've already done it. Yeah, you're way ahead. Yeah.
So I've started to look at all of the things that I can cultivate that are not necessarily financial. So it's relationships with other businesses, people that I know. And the first thing that I'm doing is reaching out to people that have been either awesome to me over time or that I have good relationships with, and saying, is there anything I can do that I can give you for free, not charging business, that's going to help you? So there's a few people that I've helped with, just some video stuff, and getting them so that they can actually start to deliver their stuff more in a social media area. And then certainly people have stepped up and given me help. And I see Glenn's hand up. Glenn.
Yeah, as the marketing guy in this group, that's something I would really say is that a lot of people, like Dave talked about, is they made their first contact via email. There was a big flurry of email around the initial announcement, and most of it, to be perfectly honest, was unnecessary. I think there'll be case studies going back on that. Kind of everybody communicating at the same time created a lot of net not valuable communication, large bulk non-personal communication, I would say. But those individual outreaches that people have made, I know in my experience, just reaching out and telling my clients, these are my new hours, this is the new reality of my working life, really mattered. But the thing I would also encourage people to do is not forget that just because you called them once doesn't mean that to make an impression, one phone call was going to make that impression. I think what you're saying about following up with people over time is incredibly important. At 2 weeks, at 30 days, at 45 days, just reaching out to your key clients and making sure that they understand that you're still there, you can still provide value. Because everybody, I mean, the sad reality is many businesses with large cash flow issues, a lot of mouths to feed. Particularly, that's the toughest thing when something like this happens, when you have a large employee base. That business is run around with a chicken with their head cut off, rightfully so, because their head has been cut off. But I think if you're, as a provider or a vendor, can reach out to those individuals and provide reassurance that you're still there to provide value, it's not only a nice things to do, it's also good business. As when the time comes to pay receivables, maybe the person who showed they cared might get paid first.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, Gordon, are you seeing any questions that have come in through any of the feeds? He's shaking his head no. So either were super boring because people thought they were going to be having free guitar lessons right now, but there are free adult guitar lessons coming up at 3:30. And for me, really, I felt this was important because it's, small business is the engine of my community, Mornville. And if there's local businesses that don't have teams, a lot of bigger companies are going to be able to dedicate a team to dealing with this. Lee, can you talk a little bit to the importance of a little guy like me putting together a team? Like, you were on my team. That was like having Wayne Gretzky and in and the Timbits team. What can people do to build a team? Because as a business owner, I'm going to be running around with like a chicken with my head cut off, and I need to be able to focus, and I need people to help me do it.
Yeah. So I will go back to the 6 key areas that that I outlined for what you need to do to prepare for this kind of emergency. The first one being people, and being able to establish some kind of plan for what to do with your people. Obviously, if you're a small business owner, you're not going to have. It's probably just only that you can rely on as far as an internal team, so to speak. But what you can do is gather, as you've done, Paul, is reach out to the people around you in the community that you have relationships with already. So your banker, the local Canada, Alberta, employment benefits agent. They are out there. I've
Hmm.
worked with them personally myself, in other capacities, in other situations. So they're there, and they're probably pretty busy right now, but I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help if you reach out to them. And, as far as the overall continuity plan, health and safety, for example, maybe there's somebody that you know in the community that is a nurse or a doctor or a technician or somebody like that, or maybe it's just your local health authority. They also are available and willing to help. So reach out to them for the health and safety part. For employee support and action, maybe there's some people in the community that have more knowledge than you do. I'd be one of them. If you, if you really, if you've got people around you, that's the key. So reach out to someone that you think might help you with your employee action plan if you need to get that nailed down. Um, and then the other thing is all the customers and vendors and outside agents and stakeholders that you work with, get those people in part of your circle of influence, your immediate contact environments, and your immediate touch environment. No touch, by the way. I'm kidding. No touch, but get them so that you can reach out to them. Okay. And then keep them on your your speed dial or on your redial on your phone, and call them up when you've got a question. Reach out to your banker when you're wondering about your cash flow. These are people that are on your team as a small business owner. And Paul, you've spoken very eloquently to that point. So
I see that
thank you
David
very much.
Kincaid has his hand up in the air. David Kincaid, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
I just had a question for Lee, kind of on that, just kind of based on that, but let's call a spade a spade. A lot of business owners are having some dreadful conversations, or they've had some dreadful conversations in the last few weeks.
Yes.
And I always look to you as someone. Whenever I have to have a difficult, painful conversation, I always look to you as someone to say, "How do you do that?" So, I guess for
Yeah.
some business owner that has gone through this experience or about to go through this experience, how can they handle it so that it's done in a classy way and it's
Yeah.
in a supportive way?
Yeah. 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 Well, that's a really good question, Dave. So I just want to take a minute and say, I've been in those situations many times where we've we've had to have difficult conversations with employees with regard to, layoffs or, reduction in workforce, as we call it, RIF, a RIF. That's such a terrible word for it, but basically that's what it is. You're reducing your workforce as a result of, extenuating circumstances on your business. And I think the key is keep your humanity, for goodness sakes. It's all about, and you see these stories on the news now every evening where an employer that's been in business for 30 years is having to lay off their employees of 20 or 25 years, right? So th- that is such a tragic situation, but it's something that it's real right now, as you say, Dave. So if you're going to have if you have to have those conversations, do it in a way that you would want them to do it for you. It's the old golden rule. So, you know, in my experience, give it to them straight, be honest with them, be open about, what's happening as much as you think you can be as far as the business operations are concerned. Let them know that, this is not their fault, and let them know that you're going to help them as much as you can as you go through this process. And that's why I'm saying it's really important to have an employee support slash action plan. It's not your employee continuity plan. It's not your people continuity. It's your employees as people that you're working with through this difficult time. They're two different plans. Okay. So your employee support plan is exactly what it says. It's what are you going to do to support these people through this time? And maybe it's a question of not even laying them off now because there's a government program out there that's going to pay up to 75% of their wages, but maybe it's reducing their hours, or maybe it's changing their shifts, or their, the work schedule, or, there's going to be some kind of disruption going on, most likely. So the key to those difficult conversations is to sit down, do it one-on-one if you can. Don't do it in groups. Take your time, be honest, like I said, be straightforward, be genuine. And, you know, maybe there'll be some tears shed. That's okay. Like, it's a time for that. Maybe there'll be some anger. There's a time for that now too. So a lot of emotions are running deep, and, you as a business owner may feel them as well. So all I can say is allow yourself to feel those things and be real with the people that you're dealing with.
Well said, Lee. That's certainly does not come from old school, stodgy business class like what the perception is of the 1950s, 60s. Very, very well said. Any other thoughts, gentlemen? We're going to try to keep this short and sweet so that we don't blather on, because all of us definitely have a propensity to talk, particularly myself. Is there anything that any of you amazing gentlemen have seen that we've missed in this conversation? Got a thumbs up from Glenn, thumbs up from David Kincaid. One more time, a round of applause for Gordon LaBelle for donating his time to come and help us out on that. And a round of applause
Thanks,
for
Gord. Yeah.
And I will see you gentlemen next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. And I appreciate all your time.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, guys.
All right. I'm just going to, I got to put up the outro. I mean, how do I not do that? Because it's prepared. So here we go. Thanks, guys. Oh, next outro. Look at me. Computer goes to sleep, and so do I. Here we go.